Elijah Mhlanga has spent the last 12 years at the Department of Basic Education, navigating everything from exam results to media meltdowns, and yes, even the twists and turns of what was the Bella Act, from decoding policies that leave most of us scratching our heads to surviving the chaos behind the scenes. Man, he's definitely seen it all, Iman.
All right, so he's joining us now to reflect on his journey. Hopefully some funny behind-the-scenes anecdotes about, some of the ministers that we see sort of in one capacity as they are camera-ready, but what really happens behind the scenes, but also to look at what lies ahead. Elijah, good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Iman. Thank you so much. And Arabila, thank you.
This must be surreal for you. 12 years? Did you expect to spend a decade in government, nonetheless in basic education?
Arabila is 13 years, so the 12 years was when I became the spokesperson. So I was a spokesperson for 12 years, but I was there a year before I started saying anything. I was actually listening to Iman there saying former. I thought, wow, are they talking about me?
Well, because today you start your new role.
Absolutely.
It's spring day and you're springing into your new role. Maybe we should even just start there. Yeah. Tell us about it. I mean, as I said, you're not disappearing from our screens. Yes. He becomes the new Gauteng spokesperson, taking over from Mhlanga.
Yeah, that's correct. You'll recall the Premier has said, in fact, a month ago, that he was resetting the Gauteng Provincial Government. He moved around HODs and appointed some into new positions. And of course, Vuyo is also going to the Gauteng Management Agency, which is another important agency of the provincial government in terms of economic development. So you can see that there's a deliberate plan by the Premier to strengthen the governance in the province for better service delivery.
That's going to be very important, and we're going to be hassling you a lot. I mean, it's not as if we haven't in the past anyway. But if we go back to what is now your previous role, I mean, you served even under Angie Motshekga when she was minister during major policy shifts at some stage there. What reforms do you believe are going to be sort of the longest lasting to impact the education sector?
You know, Arabila, I actually went to the department as a crisis communication specialist. It was during the textbook
Which means
saga.
every day.
This is Limpopo.
Yeah, the Limpopo.
And there was Ben Panyaza, who's now the Premier.
100%.
See how long we've been doing journalism. Panyaza was the spokesperson for the minister at that time when this Limpopo debacle happened.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he needed capacity. So that crisis was ensuing, and I was watching it from outside government. I was busy doing other things, but I mean, we close, so we talk every day. So I knew the challenges that I was facing. And one day he called me and he said, you need to come help me with this. So I went in there for that. So initially I was supposed to be there for 4 months. Wow. And I came in there, I put up a plan. I indicated how the plan was supposed to be implemented. And then at the end of that period, I was told that I should stay a little longer. So I stayed and I watched. The contract was extended. And then in August 2013, I was offered a contract as a director for communications. I said, so what should happen to the things I was doing outside? I was told to forget about that. So I said, okay, it's fine, I'll stay. Then I stayed. But we were already going to the 2014 elections. He was already preparing to leave the DBE to go to the province. And indeed, in April 2014, the minister appointed him acting DG at DBE. Because a DG had just been released, and I became chief director in April 2014, 9 months into my director position. And remember, I came with no previous experience in public service. Yeah. So I came and I did my best. I mean, it's like 12 years now as official spokesperson for the Department of Basic Education, which ended yesterday.
You talk about a lack of experience in public service because you were like one of us.
Yes.
You're a journalist. 1990, you're at the Mercury, you're at the Saturday Star, you're busy, working in the trenches there, and you find yourself having to face your colleagues in the role that you played. And I want to ask you about that time, but I think to Arabile's point, we need some tea. You know what tea is, you know what the kids say. Behind the scenes, in managing chaos and crisis, the Limpopo textbook saga obviously stands out as one of those pivotal moments, but also in the GNU, with all of the ructions over the Bella Bill, the Bella Act, different ministers. What are some of the highlights where you feel that your skill was really important and you changed the trajectory of how the department was viewed?
Well, maybe two things. The first one was exactly that one, because that was my brief.
Your baptism of fire.
To deal with that textbook thing. And we dealt with it. I remember with the acting DG Pedi Parach, at one point, we called a media briefing. I think it was 2014, 15 somewhere. We called a media briefing. We thought we were going to be asked about it, and no one asked about it. That's when we knew that officially ended. Remember that thing, after it was resolved in terms of the delivery of books, it continued in the courts. The media continued to follow that story in the court. So what I used to do, which is something that didn't happen before, I printed our side of the case, the papers, the court papers, and I took those to court. And I gave to journalists, I said, please read our story. Yeah. Don't just follow the story from the other side. Here's our response. This is what we did. Understand it and report from this side as well. And when they started doing that, some understanding started to permeate, and people started understanding the struggles that the department had gone through. It wasn't just a sheer matter of failure to deliver, but there were other deeper complex issues that were behind that lack of delivery of the book. So communication was really at the center of it. And at that time, no one was listening. So I came up with a way, and I did work with Lesufi in the beginning, but he said, I'm going to pull back and give you the space to deal with this, because I had been there and it seemed like no one was listening to me. Maybe a new voice will help, new strategy will help. And we started implementing those, and it worked. I mean, we were able to deal with it, kill it, and forget about it. And then we moved on. Then the next thing was the implementation of the actual curriculum, which is CAPS, by the way, we're talking about policy shift, yes. Was the implementation of that curriculum, because that issue of the textbooks, it was in the context of a new curriculum coming into place. It was not just a random failure to deliver textbooks. There was a new curriculum which was being introduced. So when we're done with that whole saga, we then came to the implementation of that new curriculum, which, by the way, turned 10 years last year, 2024, stable. That's why you've seen the system starting to improve. When I went into the department, we were in the 60s in terms of the matric pass rate. It was 89, we're almost at 90% now, because of that stability, monitoring, support, understanding the systemic changes that are taking place, and therefore stabilizing the system.
So your fault that it's improved that much. Is that what you
but also 30%, right? The 30% pass rate also happened in that context, which is not without its searing criticism.
No, that's something completely different. In fact, I wrote about it somewhere. I'll share this. So the 30% thing is a complete misunderstanding of what took place in 2008 when the new regime came into place. So from 2007 was the last time when matriculants wrote the old matric that you and I wrote. So from 2008, it was a new one altogether. Yes. So what then happened was the department did away with the higher grade, standard grade, and lower grade. Instead, brought in a new regime in terms of the pass requirements for grade 12. And those had to do with the bachelor. That's when all these words started coming in. The bachelor, the diploma, the higher certificate, and the standard certificate. So the explanation of that transition wasn't done well, in my view, by the department at the time. That's why it led to the confusion where people thought that there's a lowering of the standards, when in fact there was no such. In fact, it went a little bit higher, because before that, with lower grade, the sub-minimum was 25%. Not even 30%.
Did you do all your subjects on higher grade?
No, I did mathematics in standard grade. I have to be honest about that one. But I did everything else on higher grade, and 5 Bs and a D. No distinction. But anyway, that's besides the point. Post all of that, you also then had the COVID-19 pandemic. You've had exam leaks, matric examination leaks. Which one of those probably tested your skills the most, do you think?
COVID. So COVID for me was the most... In fact, maybe there's another one before COVID. So in 2016, when Vuwani was shut down,
yes,
remember there were some 2,000 matriculants who were not going to school from around May, June until August.
This was when all those schools were burned.
That's when the schools were banned. And it's like we didn't know what to do with the situation. Even the police were struggling there. So I remember one day I received a call from Chief Masia of Vuwani. He called me, and when I saw the call, and Truecaller said, this is Chief Masia, I couldn't believe, because I was aware of him. I mean, he's a well-known person there. And then he called me, he says to me, we would like you to work with us to rescue the situation in Vuwani. I said, okay, I'm listening. He says, we don't want any politician there. We want you because we trust you.
Wow.
I said, what does this mean? So he said, I will call you again, but I want you to promise me that you will come here tomorrow to talk to us. So immediately after that, I called the minister. I said, Minister, here's the situation. This man, this is what he's saying. And I think this is going to be an important breakthrough because we had some 1,893 matriculants who were going to fail because there was no schooling there. So something drastic needed to be done. The people who have won had shut down that whole area. There was no movement, there was no schooling, and schools were banned. And every day the number of schools banned was going up. So the minister then called the DG, then the three of us we sat in the minister's boardroom. I said, Minister, we need to leave now. We need to go to Limpopo to talk to the MEC because there's this new development, which I think for me is exciting because it's giving us an opportunity to be able to rescue that situation. So the minister said, okay, let's find. So we drove immediately to Limpopo where we found MEC Khechepe with his entire executive somewhere in Bela Bela in Lekgotla. So we get there, that meeting had to stop. And then the minister gave me an opportunity to explain what had happened. So I explained, the MEC called off that meeting immediately. The minister said, I'm leaving this to you now. Mina, I'm going back to Pretoria. You proceed to Limpopo. So I went there, got there, addressed the entire management. I said, guys, this is what we need to do. We must remove all those learners from Vuwani by this weekend. Wow. And we need to make sure that we take them to a place of safety. So we did the plan. And I could see from my colleagues in the province that they didn't believe what was happening. But it happened. So we were able to rescue those learners, put them in a safe place. Then COVID. The difficulty with COVID, no one knew the answer.
Nobody knows, yeah.
I remember there was a time when I was looking for the minister. She was not answering the phone. I called the deputy minister. She was not answering the call. I called the DG. Man. And I needed a message that I would communicate to the country. I realized that, okay, now I'm on my own. I need to develop a narrative that will give South Africans confidence that we're opening schools safely and that everyone must feel safe going to school and that everyone must understand that going back to school, even at the height of COVID, is the right thing to do. Yeah. I went and faced the media, and I was able to do that. But all of that was supported by the many meetings that we had attended with experts or those who said that this could be done safely. And by the way, that was at the time when Minister was accused of committing genocide because she was insisting that learners must go to school. And people said, we must shut down schools like all other countries, even though later, months later, everyone celebrated the matric results of the same learners that people said we needed to close down schools for.
I'm sure you've got a lovely host of stories in your little library of recollection, Elijah, and I wish we could share all of them. And of course, controversies in there as well. And I wanted to ask you in closing what the first day and the next couple of days are going to look like, but we're out of time, and I guess we're going to see it play out on our television screens. I'm sure you've had that debrief. Well, talk to us very quickly. My EP says we can give you a minute just to talk about that. Did Vuyo Mhlanga, who's now going to the Gauteng, as you said, give you any advice? I mean, are you looking forward to this?
No, I've been in the office since Monday last week. I attended a meeting of HODs, so I know what's happening. We went to the Provincial Cabinet, Lekgotla. I was there as well, so I have a good sense of what's taking place. But I'm also a resident of Gauteng, so I'm not a foreigner here, so I know what's taking place. I think all that I need to do is to coordinate my colleagues in the different departments, cohesive messaging, consistency, monitoring what's happening, responding to people's needs, and making sure that we communicate proactively the progress that we're making as a province, but also the challenges that we're facing, and be more responsive to people's needs so that people can feel that this government belongs to them.
Well, good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah,
good luck, Elijah.
We'll
be phoning you at all hours.
Oh, every time. Every time there's a pothole.
Take our call, Arabile and my call. Take our call.
Potholes, everything. Thank you so much for joining us there.